everybody. I think I'll just do my self-introduction. I'm Joseph Kamaru, based in Nairobi, Kenya. I'm a field and sound artist. I'm currently developing on projects on my installation and working with artificial intelligence and radio art at the moment. And yeah, I'm looking forward to be taking part in this conversation with Sven and you guys for the listening session.
Yeah, hello again. Good morning. My name is Sven Kacirek. I'm based in Germany, Hamburg, Germany, and I'm a musician too, and also producer, composer. It always depends on the projects, I think. And I've been traveling to East Africa for the last 10 years, quite regularly, to collaborate with musicians like Ogoya Nengo, for instance, or Daniel Buchmuhoni. And I work closely together with Tabu Sus from Catable Music. And now I'm very excited about this conversation. I'm really curious to listen to your thoughts about the music examples that Joseph and I have chosen over the last couple of days.
Yeah. So on the chat, there is like a Google Drive link where you can access the tracks which you're going to listen to. And you can have that open in your another session, but still have the Zoom view on. So the rules are the tracks are we have 4 tracks, and we'll be listening to 3 minutes of every track, and you just double click on track 1. Then when you finish listening, there's an upper left arrow. You just go back to the folder. Then we have the conversation. Then you go to track 2 and 3 and 4. Yeah. And we recommend listening through headphones, or if you're listening through speakers, you can mute your microphone. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. And the idea is that you don't know anything about those tracks, right? So, and then after listening to those tracks, we are curious to listen to your thoughts about it. What do you think? Where was this track recorded? Who could be the producer? What could be the background of this track? And I think this could be really, I hope this could be really interesting. And it sounds a bit like a funny game, because then after this, Joseph and I will of course provide you with the actual background for the track. But we also hope that those tracks, and listening to those tracks, that this will lead to a conversation about subtopics like, for instance, the fine line between inspiration and exploitation within a cross-cultural collaboration, for instance, or the meaning of authenticity in a digitally connected world. What does this mean? And also, of course, it's very much about power imbalance. So what's happening in the US right now is obviously very much linked to power imbalance. It's so much anger and frustration and pain is erupting. And we both think that this is trickling down to every aspect of daily life, and music is a huge part of it. So that's why I also think that those issues are very relevant here, right? But again, we don't know where this is leading to. It very much depends on your input. It very much depends on your thoughts, and we're very curious to listen to your ideas and to your thoughts.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions? No, I think your mic is muted, David, but you seem to be okay. Okay, so every track is between 2 and 3 minutes long, right? So we listen to the full track, and then we start a conversation, and we would like to hear your thoughts about it. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Should we start then? So we start listening to track number 1. Okay, enjoy. Okay, have you gone through it? Was it still playing?
Yeah, it's still playing.
Okay, because you don't need to listen to the second track, right? So right now we're just listening to the first one. David, do you want to start? Do you share your feedback with us, your thoughts about this track? My mic is on. Can you hear me? Joseph, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. David, can you hear us? Oh, David, your mic. Gazale, do you want to let us know
Yeah,
what
I
you
can.
think about
Maybe
this
I
track?
can start. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was in a wash salon a few days ago, and I kind of that sound kind of reminded me of that. I thought maybe I know all these sounds from this wash machine, but like it was at some point on the fast track and then on the slow washing mode, and I could really think that it doesn't have really I mean, I couldn't say from which part of the world the sound is being produced. To me, it wasn't really I mean, the geography didn't play a role in it at all. At least I couldn't combine it with a memory in a place, in a region, in geographical world. But I could definitely combine it with the machine sounds that I know. So for me, it was basically something very familiar, what I know from the not geographical world, but machine world.
David?
Yes. David, yeah. Yep. What are your thoughts about it?
I mean, yeah, it reminds me very much of labels like Hyperdub and the sound also that Nyege Nyege are producing at the moment. Maybe it's something around Slickback. It's this like kind of very glitchy use of samples and then interruption with noise and metallic stuff. And I think that's a sound that particularly Nyege Nyege and Kampala have really been pushing hard at the moment. So for me, when I hear it, it reminds me of this kind of like intersection of like the hardcore sound of sort of European and American techno and the use of more traditional sort of samples and so on.
Yeah.
Nice.
Joseph, do you want to take on? Do you want to to give us a solution?
When Gazale mentioned that she can hear more machine-like sounds, I think the direction was like okay, because as David mentioned, like Slickback, who is a Kenyan-based artist, he's one of the producers for this particular track. It's a co-collaboration between Slickback, who is a Kenyan producer, and Hi-Fi, who is a Shanghai-based film artist. And this collaboration, this track was made by both of them while in China. And an interesting approach where like these two artists were in the studio making the particular track. The direction which both of them have is more of like noise and industrial feel, and using field recordings and manipulating these sounds to create like newer textures. And yeah, this is the whole direction that both of them took for like the composition of this track. And it's also interesting because Slickback, it was his first time in China for this for his tour, and also like with an interest because he was meant to study in Shanghai in China for like architecture, but like that never happened. And the whole like East Asia and East African meeting to like create like this new sound piece brought us to like selecting this particular track and trying to like set a location where this track is specifically from. Yeah, I think that's my insight from what I get from hearing this track and the reason why we chose to select this track. Yeah.
And I also agree with gasoline, that when I first listened to this track and when I listened to this record, I was fascinated by the sound, but I had no idea where this was coming from. So, and what's also interesting about this track is there aren't any Europeans involved. And right now, there are a lot of people who are speaking and writing about the decline of the West, and basically in terms of number of population and of economic power. But I think what those people are speaking about, you can observe it very well when you look at youth culture and pop music. Because the average age in Germany, it's 45. And the average age in Kenya, it's 20. And the average age in Uganda, it's 16. So, and I think this definitely has an impact on the dynamics, on the youth culture and pop music culture, right? So I think in countries like Kenya, Uganda right now, there are so many young people who are trying to find their own voice. And some of them are using art as a platform to find their own identity and their own voice. And that's why there are so many interesting things coming up. And when I listened to this track, I had no idea where it was coming from. But if someone had told me this is from Europe, this is from Germany, I would have been surprised, because at least I don't know anyone in Germany who is producing this kind of sound. So, and that's, to me, this leads to this probably daring thesis that when it comes to pop music culture, that the global north is lagging behind right now. It's definitely not ahead of the curve. So it's very much involved when it comes to making money. So when it comes to having record labels, when it comes to distribution systems, when it comes to online platforms like Bandcamp and SoundCloud, and I think we're going to speak about it later. But I think when it comes to the creation process, again, I think the global north, when it comes to youth culture, pop culture, is lagging behind. This would be my thesis linked to this track. I don't know what you think about that. Do you agree or do you disagree? Or?
Is that addressed to everyone or?
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Eliphas, yeah, could go on.
Whoever wants to jump in, I think whoever wants to jump in. We are quite we're not so many people, so I think you can just start speaking if you want to.
I would just jump in and say I absolutely agree with your comment about the global south leading the cutting edge of music at the moment. I think that's been clear for a few years now, not just in East Africa, but scenes all over South America. Also, yes, also in Asia. I think there's like incredible artists and scenes coming through that we don't necessarily hear about so often. But I think with a little more digging on our part, becomes quite apparent that the European and American hegemony is waning, as you said.
Yeah, because you mentioned Nyege Nyege tapes, for instance. Do you see any labels at Nyege Nyege in Europe right now?
I mean, there's nothing quite like Nyege Nyege, I would say, for what they represent and what they've produced. There are, of course, labels that are very influential, I think, to Nyege Nyege, and Hyperdub being one of them. I think this record came out on Hyperdub, was it? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that also, very, has pushed many boundaries over the last sort of 10, 15 years, labels like Hyperdub. But again, I think at this point, Nyege are way out beyond that even as well. So I think also the experimental scene has grown very a lot in Europe recently, and there's a lot more ambient music and a lot more labels pushing sort of more sounds that aren't necessarily based for the dance floor as well.
And I think, Joseph, this particular track was released was a collaboration between Nyege Nyege and the label from China, right?
Yeah, the label is called Subgulls from China. Yeah. Yeah, Eliphas, you can go.
Right. I hope you can hear me now.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
I just wanted to say something in response to what Sven mentioned about the fact that, you know, the global north seems to be lagging behind when it comes to, you know, production or creativity in certain genres of music. Yet, when it comes to marketing or when it comes to, you know, revenue, you find that they are ahead. Now, isn't that what we see in almost every sphere? It's not just in music, you know. Of course, there are many examples that one could give. Joseph, you probably know about the song Malaika, that is quite famous. I mean, Malaika was a song composed by a Kenyan, I think in the 60s, but it only became a global hit because it was then, you know, played again by much more established bands in Europe, you know, like ABBA and groups like that. And we see this not just in music, but we see this whether it's in publishing, that certain authors will complain that, you know, their works are not known in the areas where they are located, where the works were originally produced. They are better known out there because they have to sometimes, you know, sell the rights of some of these works, you know. Whether it's in knowledge production on the internet, you know, is something that I think maybe we should look at more broadly. The question that you're asking is, whom does the sound belong to? So I think that's something that for me would be very interesting. You have the person who has the ideas and probably produces something, but how much of that does this person own after that? Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think this is a very important point, and also we have spoken about this. I think it's directly linked to, Joseph, also to your idea to archive the music of your granddad, right? Because probably you can speak more about this, because, I mean, first thing, right now there are so many, as we all know, there are so many record labels in Europe selling music from the African continent, and those products are designed obviously for the European market, because most of those record labels, they release vinyl. So at least in Nairobi, people are not buying vinyl. I think also in Kampala, people are not buying vinyl. And also the platforms like SoundCloud, Bandcamp, they all make money from us downloading the music. And I think, of course, here you can see again this power imbalance very clearly. And I think your experiences when it comes to archiving your grandfather's music, I think this also speaks very much to this, right?
Yeah, maybe I can speak about the whole archiving project I'm doing of my grandfather. And I started this project last year, like in June, when he passed on, and he had he had like lots of like records, and I realized when he passed is when people were like trying to get monetary funds like out of his music, and I decided to do like this reissue project purely on Bandcamp, which is also like a global north platform for music music buying. And for me, I decided to have like to use Bandcamp basically for like the monetary support, like from the people who are listening. And the goal was to like reissue. The goal is still to reissue the music back in form of vinyl. Yeah. But it's also interesting because there are not so many people who owning records or like record labels in East Africa or in Kenya, and like doing like projects for like archiving the music from like the continent and like pushing the music for like people to buy or support them. Yeah.
Yeah. Any more comments about this, or should we skip to the next track? What do you think?
Yeah, we can go to the next track.
Okay. So we listen to the second track, number 2. Okay, enjoy.
masango vitandi pokatikolo movimentos manavayakisa vakapoto vonjira naikwamiwa
Maybe I say first how it made me feel, the song. Well, first I thought like, yeah, the natural aspects, the field recording aspects in this song is very present, and you hear all these natural sounds like we are also hearing right now in the background. And then I thought maybe that would be kind of music that I didn't want to listen to in a car when I'm driving, but in the nature when I'm chilling. And then it goes, it evolves itself to the point that you think, oh, maybe I do want to hear this song in a car while I'm driving at night and it's raining and I'm driving through a tunnel. And then it evolves again, and then you think, okay, no, maybe it would be something that I would rather hear as a soundtrack to a movie. So that's the aspect that I like about this kind of sounds that don't really tell you the origin, and don't really show you the origin, but let you just imagine your memories and connections that you can relate to them. I think that's something maybe that co-production could result into.
Yeah. And would you guess where this track is from, in terms of region, culture?
I'm really good at that. As a matter of fact, everything that you think it's new, it always has to do with the fact that you have never been into that place. So if I say it was kind of new for me and it comes from East Asia, that's only because I've never been there. And so I can't really relate it to that, but for me it kind of sounds a little bit like East Asia. But
David, do you have any thoughts?
I would agree with that. I think the sort of bell sounds and the wood sounds of the field recordings certainly sort of suggested East Asia or Southeast Asia for me. I think yes, of course. Obviously, it's this ambient track with this kind of low drone is quite. I find both meditative and slightly ominous at times. I feel it does give me a sense of unease. I don't necessarily think, all ambient music is for relaxing. I think that it is to provide a sort of space also for sort of wider thinking about things. But yeah, I think in terms of sort of geography, the only sort of signifiers I could feel from that was this sort of the bells and the lighter sounds that did remind me of Southeast Asia in particular.
And Joseph, do you want to give us the solution?
Maybe I can give you the solution again. The track has lots of influences of like field recordings and like natural soundscapes. And the track is my own composition. I wrote it like earlier this year. And I use a lot of field recordings from like where I've been or sharing field recordings with like friends. And I think the bell sounds were from my friend from Russia, but like most of the other elements of the track was more synthesis and just like moving of like field recordings together to create like new palette of sounds. And why we decided to like choose this particular track of mine with Sven was the question of, even from the responses from David and Gazelle, that you can't like really try and locate where the track is from geographically. And it's also like a question because I've experienced that also here while performing my music. There's also like people don't really sort of get what I'm doing or understand like why am I making ambient or like making more of sound music than music like for guys to like enjoy and dance to.
And I also found this example interesting because from a European perspective, from my perspective, this track sounds very un-African, right? And then the question is, what does that mean? What's an un-African sound? And what I also find interesting about this track is that as far as I know, there is for ambient music, that's what you told me, Joseph, that there aren't any like venues or festivals. And even though it's not a big scene in Europe, but I think there are venues and also some festivals that are very much specialized on ambient music, right? That's why I find it interesting to hear what your inspiration is about when you're working on this type of music. So what are you listening to? What are your influences?
Listening to like my environment is one thing that triggered like my composition, and how sound has like a sense of recall. I really, when Gazila was mentioning she could feel that maybe she's driving, or like, yeah, it reminds me of like when I'm making a composition and I have this huge data set of sounds I've collected. I can recall where I've collected these sounds, and that's one thing. That's one really interesting thing about sound, that it has this sense of recall. That, and you can, as a producer or as an artist, you can remember where you recorded and what was happening before and after. And for me, it's the appreciation of sound in itself, like as an object, that I use like different field recordings to create like compositions and to write like a new piece or like a new world for like different experiences. And one interesting work I'm working on is, it's an installation called Variation, and it's based on field recordings I've collected while in Nairobi, St. Petersburg, and Berlin. And the installation is part of 3 speakers, and the whole installation is like a new space created by these field recordings of these particular spaces, and it's purely field recordings. And you can hear like collages of the sounds, and your movement is also going to affect how you're going to listen to the sounds. Yeah.
Okay. Now with 6 minutes left, would you mind listening to track number 3, even though we won't have enough time to discuss it? But I think it could come full circle if we also listen to 3rd track. Yeah. Cool. So we start listening to track number 3 right now. Enjoy the music.
You guys noticed that I left my seat because I just could not resist dancing when I started listening, and I could tell straight away where this part of Kenya, particularly the Luo community, because that's where I come from myself. So I just love it. It's beautiful, very, very beautiful. I think it's. So this kind of music, you hear it a lot when there's some kind of celebration. There could be harvest time and people are happy, or they're celebrating. It could be a wedding, naming ceremony. But you find a lot of this kind of music when there's something to celebrate in the Luo community of Western Kenya.
Yeah, it's interesting. So because we just have 2 minutes, that's why I think we should provide you with the solution. And I mean, obviously, you're absolutely right. This is Luo music, but the singer and the Natiti player is from Japan. So her name is Anyango. She's from Tokyo. And she went to Kenya like 15 years ago or something. And she took lesson with Okumu Kurengo, a Natiti player from the Nyanza region in Kenya. And then she even learned Luo. She even learned the language. And then she started writing her own songs and built up quite a career on it. So she's mainly performing outside of Kenya. So she's mainly performing in Japan, and she's quite successful. And the big question here, of course, is, and I don't have the answer, is she entitled to do this? Because that's not her culture, it's not her heritage. So she's going there, she's picking up, she's learning it. And then she's packaging it in her way, and then she's at the end also making a living from it. Is this good or bad, or right or wrong, or is this robbery or not? Or I don't know. Probably you can help me here.
I would say that it's a bit of all of those things you mentioned. She's an artist, and I think it's within her to be creative and to live out of her work as an artist. But it's important, in my view, that she acknowledges where this music comes from. I believe that what she's playing, probably she did not compose it herself. She probably learned it when she went to Nyanza and interacted with some of those musicians. So it would be nice that she does acknowledge that this is a joint production, or it is something that I adapted or borrowed from so and so, or from this community. And I think it would be nice also that, from the revenues that she gets, that trickles down also to the originator of this work, or the person who taught her the music or allowed her to learn it and play it outside of Nyanza, outside of Kenya.
Yeah. And also we also have to mention that she is getting a lot of support from Kenyan musicians, right? So like Tabu Suster, I mentioned at the beginning, and also other musicians, they very acknowledge her music, and that she is making it more popular outside of Kenya. So, but still, it's a fine line, right, between inspiration and exploitation here. But I agree with you. Sure. Any more thoughts about this track? Because we're also already running out of time, unfortunately.
We have 4 more minutes.
Okay.
Say also something. I mean, yeah, the track was full of joy, full of life and energy, and it was very real and genuine to my ears. But maybe, for example, for someone who is raised in Kenya, I don't know, maybe that's the kind of song they sing each morning in the school. Maybe that's as easy as that. So you cannot really understand it. But what this woman, this artist, has done with it, I think she has done the lesson well, and she has known where to promote this music, because she wouldn't be that successful in Kenya maybe with it, but she has chosen the right place to make it popular.
And I feel, in terms, I think I know a little bit about her story as well, and I think any artist that spends sort of 15 years learning an instrument and learning the language and learning about that culture, there'd be a very difficult argument to say that that was exploitative. It's clear that she's given her life over to this music and to celebrating this music. And I think, I think when we do talk about exploitation, often it's like, it's a very surface level interaction with the culture that is being exploited that we're really talking about. And I think with Anyango, having, as I said, given over her life to this topic, it would be a difficult case to make for me.
Yeah, I agree. So unfortunately, her teacher has passed away, but as far as I know, she's also sharing revenue. So I think she's also giving back some of her income back to the family where she picked up this music. So I think she's doing it in a very transparent way. But of course, it's quite obvious that as a woman from Japan, she automatically has access to a market that, for instance, her teacher didn't have, right? Because of traveling restrictions and etc. So still, it's I think this power imbalance in the world can be very clearly observed in this case. Even though I also appreciate what she's doing and she's and also the way she's communicating and also the way she's presenting this type of music. Okay, now it's 12:34. Probably we should also mention that there will be a second listening session tomorrow, same time. So, and of course, we are presenting different tracks, of course, different stories. So if you feel like logging in again, we are more than happy to see you again tomorrow.
Joseph, do you maybe want to copy in the track list very quickly for people who want to have a look up?
I've shared the track list on the chat.
I think you shared it. Just,
wait.
I think you sent it to me.
Yeah.
Yay, thank you.
Okay. Right. Any more questions? Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your thoughts and for your input. It was really, really interesting. So, and
thank you
again,
also for
looking forward to, or hope to see you tomorrow again. And have a good time, and greetings from Germany, from Hamburg. Right.
Yeah, greetings from Nairobi.
Bye.
Everybody.
Take care. Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.